Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Trina here with a new video for you. In this video, we'll dive into Class 1A boys' hero costumes from the My Hero Academia anime. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, just sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, let's get started. In the world of My Hero Academia, 80% of the world's population has supernatural abilities called quirks. With the rise of quirks came the rise of heroes who maintain peace throughout society. Many heroes wear costumes that range from flashy to simplistic to even straight up absurd. We've already analyzed our Class 1A girls, and we've gotten a glimpse of some of our Class 1A boys. Today we'll be analyzing the hero costumes of the rest of the Class 1A boys. Now, let's get started with our animal-loving hero, Koji Kota. Kota's quirk is called Voice, which allows him to communicate and command any animal by speaking to them. His quirk is limited by the range that his voice reaches. If the animal cannot hear him, then his quirk is ineffective. Unfortunately for Kota, his shy personality prevents him from raising his voice too loudly. To counteract this weak point, Kota added a speaker mask to his hero costume before the provisional licensing exam so that his voice range is amplified. His base hero costume is a skin-tight yellow and red suit that ends over his knees and wrists. On his chest is the image of an open mouth, which is a reference to the speaking aspect of his quirk. In the winter, Kota changes his shoes to boots, and he adds 2 white straps over his shoulders. These shoulder pads act as a landing area for birds. Overall, Kota's hero costume is very straightforward with a lack of support items that could help with his quirk. The warm colors give off an aura of approachability, but the costume itself doesn't feel like Kota made it. Looking at his casual clothes and dorm room, we see that he prefers pastel colors, which are associated with spring, hope, nature, and happiness. The orange and red color scheme somewhat clashes, and the colors make his costume look childlike rather than hero-like. His casual clothing is very simple as well. Some suggestions for a better hero costume would be to have a costume with more earthly tones like greens and browns to have a stronger theme of earthly connection. And instead of a skin-tight suit, his suit should have more padding for defense, like a dog trainer uniform. Despite having a very caring and gentle personality, he doesn't have a utility belt that could contain medical supplies for humans or animals. Having a utility belt can also carry animal food or treats to help connect with his animal companions better. Kota has a landing pad for birds on his shoulders, so he could also add more animal-specific aids like a falconer glove and leashes. His voice amplifier can also have the same upgrades as Shinzo's, where he can change the frequency of his voice to control the type of animal he wants to communicate with easier, while making his voice inaudible to humans. Finally, Kota should have a permanent animal companion or multiple companions that follow him. He can have a wolf for offense, sensory missions, and emotional aid for civilians. He can have a hawk for searching the skies and chase villains. He could even have mice on his person to send into buildings for espionage, reconnaissance, and stealing paperwork from villains. Kota's quirk has a lot of potential and versatility for a hero, but he's held back by the limits of his costume and support gear. Our next hero student has a similar problem of being too simple. It's Talesman, Mashurau Ogiro. Everything about Ogiro is, well, simple. That's his entire gimmick. He has a simple quirk, tail, which gives him a powerful and prehensile tail. He has a simple dorm room that only has the bare minimum of what a room needs to function. He has a simple fighting style that incorporates his tail into combat. He also has a simple hero costume, a plain karate gi tied with a black belt. The karate gi is partially lined with fur at the collar, which adds a bit of flair and personality to the costume. He also has black boots, and later on, he starts to wear fingerless gloves. In the winter, his hero costume has a large coat for warmth. His entire fighting style is centered around martial arts, due to his quirk being a limited extension of his body. His costume allows him to move around efficiently when in combat. In the real world, the material of a karate gi is light and loosely fit. This is because karate emphasizes striking and kicking, so the material has to maximize mobility and speed. Ogiro has no support items, and really, he doesn't need any. His focus on hero work would be close-range combat, and he seems to be doing well off with his tail. The only thing holding him back is his predictable fighting style, as Ectoplasm noted during the final exams arc. A possible addition would be an attachment to his tail that could extend his range and cause piercing damage. He could attach a mace prosthetic on the tip of his tail so that it could act like a wrecking ball, like the dinosaur Ankylosaurus. This extension may slow down his attacks, but it would definitely pack an extra punch. Overall, Ogiro is a simple guy. He wears casual clothing without attention to looking flashy and only gets what he needs. A very practical costume for a practical guy, but he could benefit from a bit more creativity. Now we're on to the sweetest student, literally Sugar Man, Rikido Sato. Sato's quirk takes the term sugar rush to the next level, as his quirk allows him to increase his strength proportional to the amount of sugar he consumes. The power he gains stacks, as per every 10 grams of sugar he consumes, his strength increases fivefold for 3 minutes. Unfortunately, his quirk's drawback is that his cognitive functions decrease due to his body converting sugar into strength. Due to the nature of his quirk, Sato only has a singular support item, a utility belt that holds sugar cubes and various other sweets needed to activate his quirk. In the notes students sent to hero costume companies, he notes that he wanted a costume that could withstand raw power and has as many pockets as possible. This is because whenever he activates his quirk, he undergoes a physical transformation as his muscles spontaneously grow per the strength he gains. The costume itself is simple, a yellow full-body suit with gloves and boots. Unfortunately, due to the nature of Sato's quirk, there aren't a lot of additions he could add. He could always wear brass knuckles like Knuckle Duster, metallic rings like Fourth Kind, or battle gloves like Kendo Rappa to add more power to his punch. He could even add claws to his hands like Wolverine. The possibilities go on. A possible solution for combating his fatigue when using his quirk is caffeine shots. He could also have custom-made taser knuckles like Knuckle Duster to knock out opponents with a shock to their nerves. This addition would also work as they have a built-in defibrillator to resuscitate someone's heart. Maybe he can shock himself with this to keep himself awake whenever he's falling asleep too. Sato loves baking sweets since his quirk requires sugar, and his clothing and dorm room reflect this. Other than this personality trait, nothing much else is reflected in his costume, but he has a lot of room to grow. This video is sponsored by Expressvpn. Expressvpn allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing a safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you are from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU and Sony Spider-Man movies, but by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase a 12-month subscription plan that costs $9.99.99 a year. $99.99 a year. This deal is for a limited time. And thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Minora Mineta is one of the less heroic students of Class 1A, but he's a hero student nonetheless. His costume consists of a purple one-piece suit and face mask with a yellow cape, boots, and gloves. He also has white pants over his costume which sticks out around his waist. Mineta's quirk is called Pop Off, which allows him to reduce and pluck out the sticky spears that grow from his head, which stick to anything except himself. His clothes aren't resistant to getting stuck to his quirk either, which is why his gloves are made with a substance that grows on his scalp to prevent sticking. This application was only added to the palm of his gloves, meaning his quirk can get stuck to any other part of them. The white pants that he wears have purple nubs around the waistline which are modeled after his quirk, and have a slight stickiness to them, but not as intense as the real deal. This allows him to attach small objects to his waist to carry easily. Finally, there's his cape. Mineta's inspiration and goal as a hero are to attract girls, which is learned during the final exam arc. A hero staple in a costume is a cape, so of course, Mineta wanted to add one to his hero ensemble. He wanted to flutter in the wind, but the designers cut it short so that the cape wouldn't stick to his hair. Another classic heroic symbol is a mysterious identity concealing face mask, which is what he wears as well. In the note he wrote to his costume designers, Mineta's sketch of his hero costume was much less, absurd looking. The white part of his pants doesn't protrude around the waist, and his cape is much longer. Honestly, the biggest issue with Mineta's costume is the fact that it looks like he's wearing a diaper, so the costume designers really did him wrong by changing his original design. Mineta's entire theme is grapes. His hair looks like grapes, his hero name is Grape Juice, his super moves are grape themed, and his costume pieces reflect this. Horikoshi named his costume pieces as follows: Grape Face Mask, the Gloves That Pluck, the Grape Pants, and the Minora Mantle. The mantle part is a necessity grape themed, but they reflect his desire to be a hero for popularity's sake. In the winter, he added a detail that looks like a grape stem to his hair to contribute to the theme. Fun fact, Mineta has the same costume designers Ashido, Yaoyorozu, and Sue. His casual clothes are reflective of how he views himself. He wants to look cool and be cool, so he acts and dresses how he thinks girls like. He puts more effort into his casual outfits than most of the other boys in his class, but his loungewear is more relaxed. In his beta design, he has undergone essentially no design changes to his costume. These sketches make him look a bit more cartoonish, however. There's not much else to say about Mineta's costume. He really just needs to get his original costume design instead of the creative liberties his designers made. He hasn't even used the pants to carry small items, and having pockets or a utility belt would accomplish the same goal much more practically. His entire costume should also be stick resistant, as it doesn't make sense that only part of his costume is invulnerable to being stuck to his quirk. Other than that, there's nothing else to discuss. It's a big known fact that the creator of My Hero Academia, Kohei Horikoshi, is a big fan of Marvel. A living testament to this is My Hero Academia's resident Spider-Man, Hanta Sero. Horikoshi has stated that Sero's quirk is one that he's grown the fondest of. He came up with the quirk while looking at some tape in a grocery store. He can shoot out and retract the cellophane tape from his tape dispenser like elbows. His entire costume and character are designed after a tape dispenser. His hair looks like a strip of tape, and his elbows look like cylindrical tape dispensers. His costume is a black skin-tight bodysuit with a white torn design on his midsection, mimicking torn tape. His shoulder pads are shaped like tape dispensers. His yellow helmet is also shaped like a tape dispenser, with a black visor to cover his face. Other parts of his costume that aren't related to tape are his boots and white bands that hug his waist, the size of his thighs, and across his chest to connect his shoulder pads. Sero and Kirishima share the same costume designer, as both their costumes have bulky shoulder pads. The bodysuit is very practical, as it allows him to be light and aerodynamic when swinging from building to building. The only impractical aspect of his costume is the clunky helmet, as it would produce drag and might restrict more dynamic head movement. He is very faithful to the tape aesthetic, which gives him some design points, but it just isn't the most practical costume piece he could have. Despite its impracticality, Sero should keep the helmet because it's the iconic centerpiece that ties his costume together. His quirk is also versatile enough to not need many support items, as he can quickly move around, restrain villains, and support his allies. He can always add a utility belt, but in this case, it might just add more weight to his costume and create drag when he's swinging around. His casual loungewear is rather mundane, as he wears baggy clothing with no particular designs on them. This is in juxtaposition with his dorm room, which is filled with personality. His room has an oriental design, meaning that it carries characteristics from Asia, primarily East Asia. This shows that he has deep roots in his culture and wants to surround himself with it. The room is also in a bohemian style, which is identified by a mixed cultural aesthetic with a heavy emphasis on earthy tones, art, and free-spiritedness. It's interesting how, above all this, Sero chose to have a costume that leans more into the comedic side. Now, this video isn't over yet, as there is one last student we have to discuss. After the joint training arc between Class 1A and Class 1B, Hitoshi Shinzo passed his assessment and was accepted into UA's hero course. Although it is unknown which class he would join for his second year, today he's an honorary Class 1A student. Shinzo's quirk is an especially powerful one. He can put someone into a brainwashed state when a target verbally responds to something he says. When a target is brainwashed, they are forced to carry out his commands. During the joint training arc, Shinzo wears a prototype hero costume. It is a winter version of the UA gym uniform. He wears 2 support items in conjunction with it. First, let's talk about his capture weapon. Since Aiza was Shinzo's mentor, he has been trained to use the same capture weapon as him. It is a long cloth scarf made out of steel wire alloy which is woven with carbon nanofibers. He can control the scarf to grab, restrain, or move around. Now let's talk about his artificial vocal cords. It is a detachable non-electric mask over his mouth. When activated, it allows him to mimic another person's voice, which tricks the target into verbally responding to him, brainwashing them easier. It is noted that using a megaphone to amplify his voice or talking through a communication device will not let his quirk activate, as his voice would be transformed into an electronic signal. After the Paranormal Liberation War, Shinzo showcases his finalized hero costume. It is a full black body jumpsuit with gray shoulder pads, fishnet arm sleeves, and fingerless gloves. On each end of his pants, he has mini speakers attached. He has artificial vocal cords and capture weapon as well. Casually, Shinzo's style is relaxed and fashionable. His style is more colorful than his hero costume, but the black design may be based on Eraserhead's costume. Having a jet black costume will allow him to hide in the shadows since he's better suited for sneak attacks and support rather than direct combat. And that is it for every Class 1A boy. Leave a comment letting us know who your favorite hero costume is and whose costume you'd like to see analyzed next. Thank you all for indulging yourself in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has got you covered. At our We the Celestials My Hero Academia and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I'd like to extend you an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being that we only accept members from 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. And if you want more content from me, check me out at Trina Do Hard on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and more. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.